The generally accepted story of how World War I began is often simplified to a single event: the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, Hungary, by a Serbian nationalist. In many history books, this assassination is portrayed as the spark that ignited a massive conflagration. However, the reality is far more complex. The assassination, while certainly pivotal, was just one of countless factors that contributed to a continent-wide explosion of political tensions. Beneath the surface of diplomatic alliances, militarism, nationalism, and imperial ambitions lay intricate domestic affairs that shaped the way nations would respond to crises. One of the less frequently discussed, yet profoundly influential of these domestic events was the Eulenburg Affair in Germany. The Eulenburg Affair, which took place between 1906 and 1909, was a scandal that revolved around accusations of homosexuality within Kaiser Wilhelm II's closest circle, particularly targeting Philipp, Prince of Eulenburg. Historians like Norman de Meyer have described it as the first homosexual scare of the 20th century, emphasizing not only its social, but also its political ramifications. At first glance, it may seem like a purely domestic scandal, a sordid tale of personal lives spilling into public discourse. Yet its repercussions extended far beyond Berlin, influencing Germany's perception of itself on the international stage, shaping its diplomatic posture, and arguably contributing to the belligerent stance that would help precipitate World War I. To understand the Eulenburg Affair, it is necessary to consider the political environment in Germany during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Otto von Bismarck, the so-called Iron Chancellor, had unified Germany and set the stage for industrial and military growth. Bismarck's policies emphasized careful diplomacy, internal stability, and the creation of a strong, centralized German state. By the time Bismarck left office in 1890, he had become a symbol of national pride and political acumen. His departure marked a significant shift in German politics. Kaiser Wilhelm II, Bismarck's successor, pursued a more personal and emotional approach to governance. Wilhelm often allowed his whims to guide foreign and domestic policy, resulting in a series of erratic decisions that unsettled Germany's allies and rivals alike. While Bismarck had relied on pragmatism, Wilhelm preferred spectacle and symbolism, often prioritizing personal loyalty over political efficiency. Philipp, Prince of Eulenburg, was a key figure in the Kaiser's inner circle. He was part of the Liebenberg dining circle, an aristocratic group closely associated with Wilhelm II. Eulenburg wielded considerable influence over the Kaiser, both socially and politically. His position at court made him a focal point for both admiration and criticism. The close relationship between Eulenburg and Wilhelm raised suspicions among the public and political observers. Letters and personal correspondence between members of the Liebenberg circle revealed intimate and affectionate language. Journalist Maximilian Harden acquired some of these letters and published them, framing Eulenburg and his friends as homosexuals whose moral corruption threatened the state. Harden's magazine, Die Zukunft, became the platform for a sensational scandal that gripped Germany. The Eulenburg Affair quickly escalated into a series of trials. Prominent figures like General Chronograph von Moltke faced scrutiny and public humiliation. Although evidence of homosexuality was largely circumstantial, the trials highlighted perceived weaknesses in the German leadership. Harden argued that Eulenburg's influence encouraged pacifism and political indecisiveness, undermining Germany's strength. He linked moral corruption with political failure, suggesting that the court's decadence had real consequences for national security. These claims, though controversial, resonated with the public, who were already anxious about Germany's position in international affairs. The Eulenburg Affair intersected with broader political events, such as the First Moroccan Crisis of 1905. Germany attempted to assert its influence in Morocco, challenging French and British interests. Wilhelm II's declarations of support for Moroccan independence were intended to project power. Instead, they led to diplomatic embarrassment and heightened tensions with other European powers. Harden used this crisis to criticize Eulenburg and the Kaiser, claiming their pacifist tendencies had weakened Germany's international standing. The affair thus linked domestic scandal with foreign policy failures, creating a narrative of national decline. public perception of masculinity and national strength became central to the scandal. Harden and other commentators equated effeminacy with weakness and moral corruption. The notion of a strong, virile nation was tied to militarism, assertiveness, and imperial ambition. Germany's image as a hyper-masculine power was challenged by the Eulenburg Affair, creating a sense of urgency to restore national honor. This cultural anxiety over masculinity influenced policy decisions and public opinion. International observers took note of the scandal. French newspapers mocked Wilhelm II, portraying him as effeminate and morally compromised. The German public felt insulted, perceiving international ridicule as a threat to national dignity. This perception of external hostility reinforced the desire for a show of strength. Imperialist and militaristic factions in Germany saw war as a means to assert dominance and re-establish national prestige. The idea of a fresh and merry war circulated in political discourse, linking domestic scandal with aggressive foreign policy. The Eulenburg Affair was part of a broader European crisis of identity. Across the continent, nations were grappling with changing social norms, global diplomacy, and the pressures of modernity. Scandals involving sexuality and morality often intersected with questions of national character and international power. Germany's internal debates mirrored similar discussions in other European countries, highlighting the interconnectedness of domestic and foreign policy. The affair exemplified the ways in which personal relationships and social norms could influence geopolitics. As the 1910s approached, German policy became increasingly assertive. The influence of Eulenburg and his circle diminished, but the cultural impact of the affair persisted. Nationalistic and militaristic rhetoric intensified, emphasizing strength, honor, and virility. Germany's military build-up and aggressive foreign policy can be traced, in part, to the anxieties amplified by the Eulenburg Affair. The scandal contributed to a climate in which war was increasingly seen as both inevitable and desirable. The interplay of scandal, masculinity, and foreign policy demonstrates the complexity of the causes of World War I. No single event can fully explain the outbreak of the war. Instead, a network of domestic and international pressures converged, creating a volatile environment. The Eulenburg Affair, while seemingly a personal scandal, had far-reaching political consequences. It shaped perceptions of leadership, morality, and national strength. It influenced how Germany interacted with other nations and how Germans viewed their place in the world. By undermining confidence in the Kaiser and his court, it contributed to a sense of crisis that prepared the nation for conflict. Harden's writings and the public trials brought issues of sexuality, morality, and power into the open. They forced Germany to confront questions of governance, ethics, and national identity. The affair highlighted the vulnerability of leaders to personal scrutiny and the political ramifications of private behavior. It demonstrated that social scandals could have tangible effects on international relations. The connections drawn between morality and politics created a narrative in which personal failings were linked to national weakness. This narrative shaped public opinion and influenced policy decisions, creating conditions conducive to war. The Eulenburg Affair also illustrates the role of media in early 20th century politics. Mass publication of private correspondence allowed journalists to shape public perception. Die Zukunft exemplified the power of media to amplify scandal and affect political outcomes. Harden's reporting reached international audiences, demonstrating how domestic affairs could influence global perceptions. The affair was thus a precursor to modern media-driven political crises. By examining the Eulenburg Affair, historians gain insight into the cultural and political dynamics of pre-World War I Germany. It reveals how social norms, personal relationships, and media coverage interacted with national identity and foreign policy. The affair highlights the interplay between domestic scandal and international diplomacy. It underscores the importance of perception, reputation, and masculinity in shaping political decision-making. Ultimately, the Eulenburg Affair was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader constellation of factors that contributed to the outbreak of World War I. The scandal's emphasis on effeminacy and moral corruption created pressure for Germany to assert itself militarily. Nationalistic fervor and a desire to demonstrate strength became central to policy debates. The intersection of scandal and international relations helped set the stage for the aggressive posture Germany would adopt in the years leading up to 1914. The affair exemplified how cultural anxieties can influence strategic decision-making by undermining confidence in leadership and fostering a crisis of masculinity. The Eulenburg Affair indirectly contributed to Germany's warlike stance. In conclusion, the Eulenburg Affair demonstrates the complexity of historical causation. World War I cannot be attributed to a single assassination or diplomatic blunder. Instead, it arose from a web of interconnected events, scandals, and social dynamics. The affair shaped perceptions of leadership, morality, and national strength in Germany. It influenced both domestic policy and international relations. By highlighting the links between personal behavior, public perception, and state power, the Eulenburg Affair provides a window into the cultural and political forces that help precipitate World War I. Its legacy illustrates the far-reaching impact that domestic scandals can have on global events.